guys, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to do something a bit different today. And we're just going to be going over everything that I've made. Well, mostly everything. Pretty much, I'm just going to be going over all of the more modern stuff that I made, and I'll go into that a little bit later on, but I'm just going to jump into the video. So first, I am going to have to do a little bit of backstory, just generally on some of the older techniques. Pretty much, put it shortly, I don't actually have a lot of the older stuff that I made, but I do have actual images of it, but I have images of a few things. If I can find them, I'll throw them in the video. I know there's a Columbian mammoth from like Primeval I made. Throw that in if I can find the images for that. I know I have one for like a Paraceratherium and a Elasmotherium that I made. But anyways, we'll get to some of those later. But pretty much my oldest technique is really just taking foil, wrapping it in tape. Pretty much just taking foil into the shape of a prehistoric creature and then wrapping it around in tape and then maybe throw Sharpie on it a little bit. And yeah, that's how you get some of the old things like the Paraceratherium and Elasmotherium. Then we move on to the next technique which I use, which is pretty much that. But what I would do is I added two things. First thing I added was battle damage, which you can see in this figure, which is a Kenner-style Jurassic Park the Game Tylosaurus. And you can see that this has battle damage, which I can still do. So if you want to see a video on how to make battle damage, comment that down below. But anyways, I used to do that. It's pretty much the same technique where it's made out of foil and I wrap tape around it. But the only thing that is different about this is that I actually added dots of hot glue across the whole entire model to make it have kind of a scale and texture. And this also makes it a little bit more firm. So, yeah, this is one of the oldest things that I still have. I actually also made a replica of the Kenner's Carnotaurus, which I don't have that anymore, but I do have images of it. So I'll put that up on the screen. But yeah, I really miss that Carnotaurus. But yeah, that is one of the old techniques. And then I actually have another older one, which is just this one, which is a Titanopteryx, which it's falling apart now. I kind of spray painted it at some point, so the wings have holes in it. But again, just wrapped in tape and mostly made out of foil. But I still do kind of like this one. Next, another thing that I added in was the ability for a chomping action feature. Which how I do this is I just take a chip clip and you can just put it on, and it's kind of a weird way. I don't actually use this technique anymore, but again, if you want to see a video on this, I will just do a whole entire video showing techniques. Just comment down below if you want to see that. But yeah, this Tylosaurus is actually different because it's made completely out of hot glue. There's not really any foil on it. It's just really hollow too and everything. But yeah, this is one of my older ones. And I'm going to go real fast, see if I can find a certain book I have with some concept art for some of the things I made, for I can at least show that, but no guarantee I can find that. Okay, I was able to find the book, since I don't think I have the images of the older stuff, but yeah. This is going to be a bit weird, because some of this isn't this. These are just, like, Mattel concepts that I made, which I probably showed through in my other video, but just going to quickly flip through these. Sargopterus, which we ended up getting, Nanucosaurus, a giant orthicone. These are kind of old. Dacosaurus, another one that we ended up getting. Tylosaurus. And Ichthyosaurus, which I still hope we get an Ichthyosaur at some point. But anyways, now we move on to the concept. So this was Stegosaurus, which, again, I don't actually have the figures, and they do look a bit different from the concept arts, but this is the best I can do. So yeah, Stegosaurus was actually about the size. These are all the scale to how big they would have been at least. Next we have the Microceratus. Another one that I made. Then we have the, a little bit tricky to hold this and turn the pages, but yeah, Troodon. Jurassic Park the Game. This is another old one that I don't have anymore. Euoplocephalus, which I made. Remember it had battle damage on the stomach, but yeah, pretty much did that. Lost World style Carnotaurus, which I think had leg articulation as well, and again a battle damage on the side, and it also had color shift green so that it would change colors, like the one in the arcade. Deinosuchus, which I eventually did make a new Deinosuchus, which we'll get onto that a little bit later in the video. And next we have Excaviraptor, which is from one of the canceled Jurassic Park 4 scripts. So yeah, there's Excaviraptor. Next is Therizinosaurus, which I remember making this one way before the Therizinosaurus from Mattel ever released. Then we have Mosasaurus, which I remember this is another one that I made, which Mattel did make one of these, so I don't know why I didn't just get the Mattel one instead of making one. But then I think that's about it. I think the rest of this is just random stuff, which, I mean, maybe if you guys want to see that, I'll show it off in a different video, which are mostly just random hybrids I made up, which they're not really important for this video, but just wanted to show that off since I still do have those and not really much images. So, anyways, Now we're going to also jump into just another one that doesn't really fit anywhere else, which is this one, which is a Kaiwekia, just covered in tape, and it's, you know, made out of foil, but the neck actually is bendy because I took like from like a tripod or something. I took like the bendy part from that and stuck it in the neck. So this neck can articulate and the jaw can open and close. So yeah, that is the Kaiwekia. Now we move on to the modern stuff, which is the stuff that you guys are probably waiting for. So first we're going to start with, I'm trying to think if I want to go a chronological order. I'm just going to go with the stuff that I actually don't display anymore since that's the closest to me. And then we will move on to the more other stuff. And I'll try to mention when I made these roughly, which I kind of forgot about this one. Here is also a Giganotosaurus, which was made with the old technique that the Tylosaurus was made before. This is not one of the modern ones, just kind of forgot to throw it in here. Which, if you see my Giganotosaurus review, then you will remember this figure at the beginning of that. But yeah, this also does have battle damage, but I lost the battle damage piece I made for it on the tail, so yeah. Also, this thing doesn't stand anymore, but yeah. Now we actually move on to the modern style stuff. First, let's start with Eocarcharia, which is a pretty decent older one, and this one actually was on my shelf till recently, and I decided to take it off since I'm going to remake this figure eventually. But it has articulation in the head, the jaw, the neck where it can turn side to side. The arms, I think, had articulation at some point, but I glued them in place. The legs actually have articulation here, but they also had ankle articulation. Just one of them I glued in because it kind of started breaking, and then the other one didn't break off, but it literally would just turn all the way backwards, so I decided just to glue it into place. And this also had hip articulation too, but it doesn't look. But I got rid of that as well because again, it wasn't really working. And then we have 3 points of tail articulation on this figure. This is an older one, not the best, and it's based on the Dinosaur King Eocarcharia, which is what the other one's going to be based off of. And this also has magnets, one on the stomach, one on the sides of each side of the jaw, and I think there might be, I think those are actually it, but yeah. Next, we have Megathorax, which this was the first articulated dinosaur that I made, like really articulated one. There were some other ones with minor articulation, but like fully articulated dinosaurs, this was the first one, which this one has knee articulation and foot articulation. This is pretty much how the Eocarcharia's one was, but it was much floppier. I can't tell if this foot is glued in place or not, but yeah. The arms, which move, and also this claw moves as well. Originally, I was going to have all the claws move. That was the only one I was able to get to move, though. The neck has articulation. The jaw can open and close. The tail can move side to side. And, yeah. I'm also going to redo this figure eventually, but this is one of my older ones, and this one's been off the shelf for quite a while. Next, we have Chester the Rajasaurus, which this is one that I also took off the shelf recently because it's kind of just sitting there and I need to clear up some space. So yeah, Rajasaurus definitely had to go, which has jaw articulation, arm articulation kind of, but it's not the best. And also leg articulation, which you can literally pull the legs off of this figure. That's how much the legs are. This is why I don't do leg articulation like this because it doesn't really work. But it does actually go in far enough that it will stay in and it won't just fall out. You would actually have to pull it out to get it off. So, yeah, that is Chester, and he also kind of has tail articulation. This was made for a project that never really happened. Don't know if it's still going to happen, but yeah, here is Chester, the Rajasaurus. Next, we have, I'm going to actually grab quite a bit of an older one, Dinotherium, which this thing, the legs are really loose on this one. I'll probably have to glue those in place. Or just not, because I don't like this figure. It's hideous in my opinion. It's really big, which is not too big of an issue. This is an older one. This is probably this is the second how to make video I made on. The first one was on Livia 10, which we'll get to later. But Dinotherium was the second one. And it has jaw articulation, but it doesn't stay closed because the tusks are too heavy. The legs kind of articulate, but that's kind of a flaw on this figure. It actually, the legs articulation doesn't really work anymore, so I'm going to have to glue that in place. And again, this one is in storage as well because I don't really like this one. And also it has ear articulation, and it also has a battle damage piece, which again, if you want to see a tutorial on how to make battle damage, just request that in the comments. So yeah, that is the Dinotherium. And last of the ones that I have stored away is Camarasaurus, which this one actually I don't dislike as much as I did when I first made it, which I originally disliked the color and the size, which I actually do like the colors now, though when I do remake this one, I am going to go with the more traditional coloration for the Camarasaurus. But my biggest issue with this one is that it is way too big. Camarasaurus should probably only be about this big, if anything, and it's way bigger than that. So, yeah. That's the reason why that happened, is because the tentacles, I made the tentacles first and I didn't want to redo them, so I decided just to roll with it. And then once it proportioned out, it really just was too big. which the tentacles do articulate by themselves. And there's a beak in there somewhere. Also, one of the arms keeps on falling off, and I don't know where it's at right now. I think it's probably in the box where I have this stored, and I can probably go get that eventually. But yeah, this camera's serious. Don't hate it as much anymore, but I still do keep it in storage because it's too big to really display on the shelves I have. Now we move on to the more modern stuff. First up, here's Helicoprion, which is the first one in like the completely covering in hot glue and also giving articulation figure that I've made. And in my opinion, this is actually doesn't look as old as some of the other ones that were released actually after this one. So yeah. Named this one Helix, and it does have jaw articulation though. I did leave it in a hot car, and since this is made out of hot glue, the jaw articulation can get a little bit wonky at times, but it still works really nicely though. And I still use the same technique till today. So this is one of the first figures, and personally, I will remake this one eventually, probably making it a bit bigger since I did downsize it a bit, since, again, I didn't know this technique would even work, so I didn't want to go too big, but I wanted this to still look nice if it did work, so yeah. Next, we move on to the second figure that I made, which is the Leviathan, which has jaw articulation, which doesn't stay closed. And just pretty big. If you want to see how I actually made this, I do have a video on how I made this one. This is the second video, well, actually not the second, the first video of how to make things that I made. And also, this is the other one I kept in the car with the Helicoprion, and it was hot, and it was resting on this flipper, so it didn't melt, but I was able to use some heat to put it back in position, and then colored back in the fin, which is not perfect, but it still works pretty decently. You can kind of see how this one's unperfect compared to this one. But yeah, I will also eventually remake this one, because I also did downsize this one as well, so it should be quite a bit bigger, a little bit bigger than this, so yeah. That is the Leviathan, which I named Levi. Next, we have the Himalayasaurus, which is a really big one. This one is actually not really that old, but the jaw articulation doesn't stay closed, but it kind of has an opening right here, so it's actually pretty easy. You can just kind of use a chomping action feature, I guess. And yeah, this is like the biggest model I've made so far. One of my favorites as well. And it's really sturdy, so you can just like pick it up by the tail. So yeah, this is my Himalayasaurus, and I really do like this figure. Next, we have the Titanoboa, which is the figure with the most articulation points out of any figure that I made, and it kind of fits since it is a Titanoboa, which this one has. I'm just going to count this up. So we have jaw articulation, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 points of articulation. So none of my other figures have more than 13 points of articulation. They all have less than that. There are some that have gotten close. And also this, I believe, is also my longest figure I've made. So, yeah, that is the Titanoboa. And, yeah, I do like this one. Just the jaw is a little bit floppy, which sucks a little bit. And also, it is also oversized, but this one doesn't bother me as much. And I like just carrying it around like it is a real snake. Next, we have the Sinraptor, which I think I oversized. So I have an issue with oversizing them. This actually also has a stand, but it can stand by itself. I have gone at the stand on its own without the stand. It's just really hard to get it to balance. I'm probably not going to try to get it to work, but yeah. Sinraptor has jaw articulation, and that is it. I mean, it also has lips, which I kind of consider an action feature sometimes, but yeah. That is it for Sinraptor. So, yeah, I really do like this figure, and it came out pretty nicely. Wish it was a little bit smaller, though. And then we also have the Shunosaurus, which has a lot of points of articulation. So many in the neck that it can just kind of flop. We also have leg articulation here, and foot articulation. Torso articulation, actually, which I don't really put on figures anymore. And tail articulation, so this thing can swing its tail. So, yeah, it's also based off the Dinosaur King Shunosaurus. And it is a bit oversized for the species I was going for, but it kind of works out since there is a larger species of Shunosaurus, which is about this size, so yeah. Next, we move on to, so here we have the Schmock, which Schmock is weird because we don't know exactly what it is, but at least we can tell, I'm pretty sure we can at least say it's a reptile, so we're just going to go with that. But this one is just an old figure that I never painted. No reason why, I just never painted it. And also, it can't stand, but for some reason, if I put a Jurassic World human figure in its arms, it can actually hold it, and it will balance out, and it can stand, so weird, but yeah. Anyways, here's Schmuck. I should paint this guy, though I probably never am, and also I've done a lot of test things on this thing since I never painted it. So yeah, this is the Schmock, which is one of my older ones. Probably, I think I made it after Leviathan and Helicoprion, though I may have made it before Leviathan actually. Next, we have Utah Raptor, which again is oversized like a lot of my other figures, but again, I do like this figure. Jaw articulation is floppy, but it does look down and up really nicely. Side to side articulation, no articulation on the arms, though I think the feathers on the wings came out pretty nice. The legs do move backwards and forwards, and the foot moves down, and the toe claws do move up and down as well. We also have tail articulation, actually 2 points, one right here and one right here, which you can see does work. Let it bend side to side. I do really like that Utah Raptor. Next, we have this guy, which is not Chunkingosaurus, but there's another one, starts with a CH, another Stegosaur. Can't remember the name of it, but yeah. I really like this guy. I literally just needed an extra dinosaur for prehistoric terror, so I decided to make this guy, and it's one of my favorites. Don't know why, just do. He is very cute. Next, we have generic ornithopod. Again, needed another extra dinosaur, and I believe it does stand, so yeah. Just a little random guy I made. Next, we have Papasaurus, which this is also a really old one, based off the dinosaur king Papasaurus. And, yeah, this guy's pretty sturdy. In fact, this is actually one of the only ones that actually has clay in the model, because these side spikes were made out of clay, instead of hot glue, like my more modern things. So, yeah. Next, we have this Desmatosugid, which I always forget the name of, but, yeah, this was one of my first airbrush attempts, which came out nice because I'm having some issues with the airbrush, so I don't use it as much as I would like to, but, hopefully in the future I can get that worked out. But, yeah. I actually used a different technique to make the shell of this guy, which, again, if you guys want it, I'll do a techniques video and I'll show you how I made this. Well, use the technique for the shell at least. And then we also have Armadillosugus, which is just a little guy. Jaw articulation. And yeah, this is just a little Armadillosugus. And then we move on to the last of the older things before we move into the newer stuff. All of these are ammonites, which I did make a video on how to make ammonites from Prehistoric Planet and just extras. But this is one of my favorite. This is the Diplomossus, or as most people call it, the paperclip squid. And this is the biggest one. But as I open this, you can see a lot of these other ones, which if you saw this video, you'll remember these. I don't remember the name of every single type of these ammonites, but this is one of them. I'll say the ones I do know the name of. There's also this one with a crazy shell. I'll just set that down. This one, which I decided to give some crazy colorations. This one, which actually make the cork. I don't know why I have such issue trying to say corkscrew, but the corkscrew shelled ammonite. That was kind of interesting how I had to make that shell. Nostosaurus. This is actually like directly based off the Prehistoric Planet one. Is also the Diplomossus one is as well, but yeah, I really like that one. Then we also have the Belanites, which I think came out pretty nicely. And then I'm just going to dump these out into my hand. And we have this ammonite, which looks similar to some of the other ones. This one, which is kind of more based off the Nautilus, or that one ammonite that Globidens eats in Prehistoric Planet. And then this is one of my other favorite ones, which is a little ammonite. So here are all of the ammonites that I've made, just all laying right there on the table, which let me just clean this up real fast. Now we move on to the most recent things that I've made, which I was actually going to wait to do this video until I finish doing everything, because there are a few more species that I plan on doing. But, yeah, those got postponed, and are probably going to take a little bit longer for me to get to doing. So I decided to do the video now. But first we have Postosuchus, which specifically Postman Postosuchus, which you take the hat off. Stands really nicely. Magda, I have a video on how I made this guy. Has jaw articulation, and also has ankle articulation with a new style of articulation I'm working with right now. And, yeah, that's pretty much it for the Postman Postosuchus. Next, we have Autobonoceratops, which has a stand with a magnet in it, so that it can look like it's feeding. Also has another stand where it can kind of just sit. And, yeah, has magnet in the mouth, stomach. Pretty much that's it. If you want to see more of this figure, again, I have a video for this one, and many of the other ones I have made. Last, we have Megalania, which is the most recent thing that I made. In fact, I still have not put the sealant spray coat on this thing yet, because I really don't know why. I just haven't. I kind of forgot about it. But, yeah. Has neck articulation, so it can go up and down. And also, the mouth can open, which I really do like the mouth on this guy. So, yeah, let me just get the focus on this camera to work a little bit better. But, yeah. This is the Megalania, one of my favorite, the newer ones that I've made, really big. And I actually kind of forgot a few of them because they kind of are in a different spot. They're not in storage, but they're just not up with the other ones. They're actually right next to my filming location. But we have Dinosaur, which is a giant, massive crocodile. This is a little bit older, but I do have a video on how I made this. So yeah, and also his tail articulation, a lot of that. And then we have Lissawishia, which you can see there was actually originally supposed to be battle damage right here, but I decided to get rid of that because it was kind of looking dumb. So yeah. Here's the jaw articulation. And yeah, that is Lissawishia. And that is pretty much most of the modern stuff that I made. Which there's a few more things, so don't click off the video yet. But yeah, that's pretty much the more modern stuff, so I'm gonna go grab some more things. So now we have some dinosaurs that were kind of canceled, as in I started working on them but then ended up scrapping them. And most of these, actually pretty much all of these except for one, I plan on doing. I just decided to get rid of it for now. So first we have the Megalania. This was the original Megalania I started working on months ago and came out horribly, so I decided to scrap it. And yeah, I just have a Megalania head. Next we have Utyrannus, which I actually think this head looks really nice, and I would still use it on a Utyrannus. The issue is it's too big. That is the biggest issue for this Utyrannus, so that's why it did get cut. It also does, the eye got messed up, so I decided to make it look like it has a blind eye, so yeah. Next we have Stegosaurus, which this is mostly just to test its jaw articulation and trying to work on getting like cheeks, I guess. It's really weird. Did not come out the best. Next we have Dryptosaurus, which I'm pretty sure is like the only one that I would not, probably wouldn't do another one of. I might, but as of now I don't really plan on doing another Dryptosaurus in the future, though I might. And then we also have this tiny one, which, believe it or not, this is Arizonasaurus. I was going to work on an Arizonasaurus, but the head's too big, so I have to redo that. Probably do that in the future. Next we have Parasitus, which is still massive. I still plan on doing this, and I plan on actually just keeping this head as just a prop, because if you're wondering what the heck this is, that's for it could spray water out of a blowhole. So yeah, that is jaw articulation, blowhole. That is it. And then we have the biggest one, the Saurophaganax, which again, this head is too big. That is the only issue with this figure. And yeah, the jaw is a bit floppy, but this thing was the first one with like real lips I think I did. So any figure with lips, you can attribute it to this figure right here, even though it was cut. And it is one of my favorite heads, and it is one of the ones that I'm most disappointed I end up having to cut. So yeah. So I'm also not going to be showing off any custom plushies, any repainted dinosaur toys, or any like drawings or anything like that. If you want to see those, comment down below if you want to see those videos. But as of now, that is everything that I've made, except for this next thing. Before we move into the next segment, I just want to show this random Unhanguera that I made, which was just a little, just playing around making thing. Like, it's not even painted, I just used Sharpie, which, okay, the wing just broke, in fact, because it was not really made that sturdy. But, yeah. This is just a random thing that I made. Isn't anything official. I literally just made it for fun, and, yeah. Maybe I could repair that wing at some point, because the wing had a wire in it to make it articulate, but I guess I've been moving around too much, because the wire just broke. So, yeah. This was just a random Unhanguera that I made, so hope you guys enjoyed this little thing, but, oh well. Anyways, next we move on to the things for, if you didn't know, I have an Etsy shop, and I recommend going to check it out. I'll link it in the description, but I just want to show you all the things that I've made for that. So first we have Jackalopterus, which is a large Eurypterid. Doedicarus, which is an articulated tail, which this one actually I don't have too many in stock, so yeah. Next we have the Muratherium, which came out pretty nice. I noticed that there's like no Muratherium models on the market, so I decided to make one. Next we have the Mastodontosaurus, which is pretty nice. This is actually the first one I made, so again, this is one of the older ones, so it's not the best. Next we have Mixosaurus, which I really like that figure. Anomalocaris. We also have several types of trilobite. And then we also have the newer things I made, which is Eonator, which does come with a base, which I remembered to grab it this time. because if you saw my other video, I did forget the base for this guy. But it does have a base, which it balances right in front of the hind flippers. So it does have a little stand cut. I decided to make one. So this is a more aquatic animal. And some of the other creatures you can put on the stand because it works for some reason. But yeah. Well, so this little trilobite, which gotta put that in frame. Yeah, this little guy. He's one of the cheaper ones since I made a lot of those. We also have Megarachne. And that is pretty much for main stuff. We actually also have Diplos Raspis, which I'm not really a big fan of this one. This is probably one of the worst things on the shop. So, if you guys want to get this figure, it is the cheapest there because I decided to suck it up and put on the Etsy shop. But I do have three other ones that were canceled that I did not put on there because, again, the quality I did not like. First, we have Yichi. It's absolutely hideous. I don't even know if I can find the words to describe how bad that thing is. Next we have Orthocanthus, which is not that bad. I mean, if you guys really want to get this figure, I guess I would be willing to put this one on the shop for like a really cheap price, like the Diplos Raspis price. But yeah. Next we have Beelzebufo, which again, it's literally just looking like a green blob with two red things sticking out of it. This is not one of my best things I've made. And then there's this, which is not even this is not going to be on the Etsy shop. This is literally just one of the trilobites I molded. The mold didn't come out proper, so I decided just to lean into the part that was damaged and then add red to it to make it look like a trilobite that has been bitten into by like an Anomalocaris or something. And I do have a few more things for the Etsy shop. Let me just grab that real fast. Now we have two more figures that were canceled but never got onto like the actual stage of me painting them. But I want to mention that just because I cancel a figure doesn't mean that I'm not going to put that species in the line later on. Just that original version is canceled. And again, in the future, maybe I will make a new one for that. But there's this guy, which I can't remember what it's called. But if you look up eagle shark, you should be able to find this pretty quickly. But yeah, this was cut. Decided to cancel it. And then there's also a Diplocaulus, which came out pretty badly. And eventually I want to release that one. And yeah, I really do like that one. Next, we're going to be moving on to some things that were not canceled, but were just in the I've started making, but I will probably finish them once people start purchasing a few more things from the Etsy shop. And if you guys really want to see these species, I will release them eventually. So here's Eoraptor, which is actually gone the furthest out of any of them. So yeah, here is the Eoraptor. So this is, hopefully I will add that in the future. Next we have Magyarosaurus, which pretty small little sauropod. Got this far in the production and still has quite a ways to go. Rhophodon, which is a large prehistoric frilled shark, which this is going to need a little bit more reworking to get the actual feature I'm trying to get it to do working out. And yeah, this was actually been on hold. It's kind of soft canceled, because I'm still debating if I can, because I've already made the head for this, and if I can still use this head, then it will probably still release with this head, and just the body will be reworked a little bit. But if I cannot use this head, then this figure will be soft canceled until I rework that and make a new head for it. But then we have this, which is a type of animal from the Precambrian, which I can't remember what it's called, but this is not finished. It's going to come with a little base for it to stand, because it stands up vertically. So, yeah, that should hopefully come in the future. And then this one I also really like, Capilespis, which, here's the model for Capilespis, which you can't see too well, but, yeah. It does not have the tail fin on yet, but, yeah, this is just, the general molding thing. So I can mold this to make more of these in the future. But if you guys want to see those in the future, yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys go to check out the Etsy shop. And, yeah, that was pretty much every single species that I have made up till now. Comment down below if you have any suggestions. It may take me a while to get to them either, and also specify specifically if you want to see it, a species in the Etsy shop, or just generally just for me to make, just to keep for my collection. But again, I recommend go check out the Etsy shop, and I'll also link another few videos about the Etsy shop in the description and as a title card, hopefully. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and goodbye.